Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Lucky Duck. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
That is me, and I'm really excited about this one. We've got Mr. John Dunaway on from the great, well, you know, we've always said if God was going to give Texas an enema, it would happen in Houston. So, you know, but
yeah, I was shocked that that's what he would call his hometown. I would be Alpine, Matagorda Bay, anywhere but Houston, Texas.
You got to make a living, though, right? John Dunaway, Abstract Conformity on Instagram. We're excited to have you, sir.
Thanks, fellas. Man, I've been listening to the podcast for a long time, so.
Oh, awesome.
Let's roll.
Awesome. So, yeah, like you're this. I think you have the best Instagram account that's out there. The pictures that you have and the captions that go along with it, it's out of this world.
Appreciate it.
88,000 followers, is that what it is?
Yeah, but I've got a problem with that because, you know, I started that thing in, I got to go back, like maybe 2012, 2013, when Instagram was tiny. Right. And I had a picture jumping up on the bow, and I literally, it's like when you could still get a DM and you're like, what are these things? You get one a month. And this girl sends it to me. She goes, you know, you're on BuzzFeed? It's like, what's BuzzFeed? She's like, it's this website. You don't know about it? So we got viral. And at that time, you could grow stuff organically. Now, you know, you got to pay people to market and everything. So I grew huge, but it was a lot of junk. There's a lot of crap in there. You know, the bots and stuff that showed up when they would put it on that explore page. So I don't like to relish on the number, but the people that I get to interact with, that's the best part of it, hands down.
Yeah. You got 88,000 people on yours. Let's say that 25,000 of them are legit people that look at you every day. Do you get sick and tired of all the messages and stuff? Does it not wear on you sometimes? Because I'm nowhere close to you, and neither is Andy, but I answer 100 messages a day. And I see now how some people have to have someone hired just to do their social media. Does it get to be a chore for you sometimes?
Oh, it can definitely be a chore, and it's definitely something that I found having to set time frames. Yes. Like, hey, when you get out of bed, wait till breakfast, because then all of a sudden I'd open it and there'd be these messages, and it might be something that you get actually engaged with really heavily, and all of a sudden you're off down that rabbit hole. You're like, oh no, I should talk to you later.
Like, I've got some people that I message with every day I've never met. I've never talked to them, but they message me every day, and I catch myself in a 15-minute conversation back and forth with them, and I'm like, then I feel bad when I don't have time to engage because I got a lot of other stuff going on.
What I've noticed, my wife, it's crazy we're talking about this. My wife and I just talked about this morning. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, we went on, it was our 10-year anniversary. We went on vacation to St. Lucia for a week. You know, all the planning that goes into it. Then we got stuck in the Miami airport an extra night. And then, like, when we got home, it was right back into the frying pan. Chasing kids. We had a wedding this last weekend, so her sister and all her kids were at our house for a week. And, like, we woke up today, and she's just like, I'm exhausted. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's been a busy week. She's like, no, like, I'm mentally exhausted. And she's like, I think I've been on my phone too much. Like, I think, like, that's just wearing me down because, you know, we're looking for pickups, and there's always an excuse to be on your phone. So this sure. morning, we invoked the 5 to 8 rule. So from 5 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the evening, or 9 o'clock when the kids go down, no cell phones. Unless you're responding to like a text message from your mom or something. But, like, aimlessly wandering social media is a no-go in the Shaver house from 5 in the afternoon to 9 at night.
I love
it's
it.
A hassle.
That'll last 3 days.
I'll tell you, the most like mentally sound I've ever been, and honestly, the best I've probably ever felt just across the board is when I was shipping out. You know, you would leave the sea buoy, the horizon would just go a straight line. You'd see nothing anymore. We'd lose cell phone signal. And that was it.
Yeah.
Used to get 2 emails a week, could come in. They would print it out, put it on my door on the ship. I'd read it and I could respond, put it on a jump drive, and they'd send it back out. No internet, no checking anything. And you could read books. You were just truly engaged in whatever was going on. And there's that double-edged sword, right? Because you get to meet people like y'all,
Right.
you know? I wouldn't have known about it if I wasn't listening to something about Wyman one time. And then it's like, oh, dude, they've got Wyman on? And then that whole thing. But it becomes a lot of noise,
Yes.
right? So setting that rule is great.
And now, you know, and then, you know, you edit, it's just, you're right. There's too much noise. And like, I think that's what it is. Like, I think there's just, your brain's always running. You never have that time where you're just like, I'm going to shut everything down. I'm either going to work out. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to, you know, have just a little bit of silence. And I think just your brain running at all those RPMs all the time, always engaged. I think it takes a bigger toll on people than what they want to admit to. So we're going to try it, and we'll see.
So let's talk about this being on a ship. Whether it was a pirate, someone that just fishes, or on a boat like you are, there's some kind of attraction for people once they become a sailor. You've shipped all over the world, correct?
I did.
What when you get in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the ocean, and it's dark and you can see all the stars, that has to be one of the most magnificent sights in the world that none of us will ever see.
It truly is. I got to do it for over a decade. And like you said, I mean, I spent 8 hours a day on the bridge of a ship and 4 hours during the day, 4 hours during the night. And my favorites were to just get up there, go out on the wing, and man, just straight 45 minutes of just staring off into nowhere. I still write. I have these digital journals I'd keep, and stuff that would just start going through my head, and I'd write, and it's like, I don't know where this comes from, but when you don't have anything else going on, I think your mind is just able, like we talked about, it actually slows down to a point where it's so hyper focused that you're just lost. And it definitely, the perspective that it brought me back to, like how little and minuscule I am in whatever the grand scheme is. Right. So to see that was exceptional.
Did you ever see anything really strange while you was out in the middle of the ocean?
Yeah, I've got 2 that I saw that were like really bizarre. So I was on the bridge. We're actually in the Straits of Florida, like pretty close, right? We're going between the Keys and Cuba. And I was looking aft on a chart table, and all of a sudden the whole bridge lit up. And I thought that the AB had turned the lights on. Like, man, turn the lights off. Because no rule. You don't turn the lights on in the middle of the night. Ruins your night vision. So I turned around. He's like, what is that? Dude, and there's this meteor-looking thing that's dropping straight down, completely stops midair, and just goes directly back up.
No way.
And we both looked at each other. I was like, no way. And we looked with some binoculars. You could see some kind of smoke trail or whatever it was. I was like, I don't know what this is. I'm not claiming that I know. But that was weird, right? And the next morning, man, the whole ship was going like, y'all saw aliens, y'all saw UFOs. Like, I never said that. I just said that I saw something really bizarre.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it is definitely unidentified, and it was flying, and it's an object. Now they've moved the goalpost on the UFO thing. It's called something else now. I can't.
Oh, that's right.
I can't remember what they called it, but that's why.
So what is their second one?
The second one actually was not on the ship. It was my wife and I were in Italy. We went over to see the Vatican and stuff in the evening, and man, I've got a little camera with me. And I turned around looking at that fountain with my back to the Vatican, looking out across the city. And I thought there were lanterns like you see in Thailand that just kind of float through the sky. There's these 5 reddish lights. Pulled my camera out and some garbage video of it. But it was so weird. They were just floating around over it. Yeah. And my wife's like, what is that? Like, I don't think there's any celebrations going on. And then they just kind of took off to the right of our vision, drifted off, spread apart, and then we're gone. It's like, that is incredibly bizarre. I don't know what.
Sounds to me like your passport book's a whole lot more stamped than most people's is.
I've got a few. You know, I was fortunate enough to sail for 10 years and have like 35 countries checked off, places that honestly, when they would send over an email and be like, hey, we need to like change your voyage plan. This is where you're going to go. We had an atlas on the ship. I'd have to pull it out sometimes and be like, where are we going? Well, I don't even know where I'm trying to plan to go to.
So how do you make a plan? Like, you know, like you said, if there's a change and it's like you have to pull out this atlas, I mean, do you just like type everything in, or like how do you navigate now? And then we can get into like all the shit that sailors a long time ago, because that fascinates me on how like a sailor can end up where he wanted to go, originally planned, you know?
Well, they have computers now.
Now they do, but 400 years ago they didn't.
A sextant.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was shipping out as second mate, we were still using paper charts.
Right.
You know, so you would literally pull out a chart portfolio, which is like British Admiralty is one of the largest chart producers in the world. And they have a catalog, and you flip through it and go to sections of the world. It's got squares, tells you what the charts are. So you lay out a route, best practice route. And then from there, you start looking at what charts you need. Man, you start dropping courses and doing things to get it all over. And it was just all paper, pencil, paper, dropping in stuff. And then you kind of get down to a different scale chart, make sure you're not running over land or something.
What's the old thing? Was it called a sextant that they used to use on the old pirate ships? That had the chart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I was a cadet, I mean, even till the last day I sailed, I mean, I still shot stars because I found it fascinating, and it was just a skill. I'm like, we're probably not going to need this. Here's an interesting one. The Naval Academy ditched it a couple years ago, got rid of celestial navigation because they thought they were going to be 100% GPS, right? And within, I want to say the last 5 years, they've reinstated it. Like, the Naval Academy's bringing it back. They've got a concern that they're going to lose electronics for some reason.
Oh, shit.
So
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, don't get freaked out.
Yeah.
I guess it's a cause.
There's a plan that we've realized over the last 18 months. There's a plan, and we're not part of it. But that's scary. But it's also like, why would you not want to give your cadets that tool to use, just in case like you're out at sea and you got to make heads or tails out of what's going on? This is what scares me about everything. The more and more we move into this technology-driven world, we lose. My wife's family knows how to garden. I don't know how to garden. If the lights go off tomorrow, I'm screwed. I can't grow a garden. There's going to be a lot of hungry nights in the Shaver household because that wisdom wasn't imparted on me.
Not gardening, but canning.
Canning, gardening. Yeah, I can grow something. It might not taste for shit. Making, loading ammo. I don't know how to do that. So I don't know why they would want to push that out and, handcuff these kids.
Man, that's such a huge one, right? We talk about we're the most technologically advanced we've ever been. I was listening to Rogan talking to Jewel just yesterday. Mm-hmm. She brings it up, and people love to pitch that. We're the most technologically advanced, but we're also terribly incompetent in the most basic skills. Yeah. And just from like that, when I was a cadet and then started sailing, shooting stars with a sextant, and we weren't navigating on it, right? You're using it as a backup just to keep proficient. But to what I see now, I mean, I'm a harbor pilot. I bring 18 to 20 ships in every 2 weeks, in and out. And I watch these guys and girls with their head in a computer screen, because it's all digital now, like a chart. And all they're doing is watching this little figure move up the ship channel on a computer screen. And they've lost every aspect of looking out the window. They don't see what's going on. And they don't even know how to relate to half this stuff. Right. They're just so caught up. You're like, if that blacks out, if you lose power, what are y'all going to do?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we've got redundant systems. Like, again, if you don't have the most basic skill set, it's like y'all go out in the field, y'all scout birds, you understand their patterns, the way they move. You could have an app that could tell you everything and track these birds. But if you don't understand the basics of why they're doing it,
right?
Like, what good is technology?
Yeah. Yeah, there has to be this. There has to be almost this primal instinct, something that in your bones whenever you're doing things like this. I mean, it has to be something that inside and out. Like I can tell you how a bird will probably react, where the computer model, if there was one, would not. and it's just a gut instinct. And you always see it in like movies. You always see it with like the pilot or whatever. Like I was watching a movie a month or Space Cowboys, Clint Eastwood and Tommy Lee Jones. And Tommy Lee Jones is this old crop duster pilot, and flying all over the place. And he's like, the computer's wrong. And anyway, they land the space shuttle by Tommy Lee's methods. But it's just like there's something that's going to get lost if people don't quit relying so heavily on the phones, on technology, on computers.
There's a book out. I was trying to look it up right now. It's a survival book, and it's about a guy who's a professor in North Carolina. And the basis of the whole thing, he was an ex-military guy. He goes and teaches at this college. I'm trying to look the damn thing up. I can't remember what it was called. Anyways, it's a book played out at a current time that we're in right now. And his daughter's got diabetes, and she's going to end up dying because she can't get insulin and stuff. You've read the book too, I think, Andy. But the thing about it is he talks about the most popular thing at their school was people were going back to college and looking up the old modern popular mechanics magazines from back in the 40s and 50s and 60s to learn how to do the basic things to survive that was just normal life back then. And to me, that was always really interesting to think about the things, because people today don't know how to live without turning a light switch on.
Yeah.
And it was just basic things that started making me think of when I was a kid in the 70s, things that were pretty normal, that it wasn't abnormal for someone to be able to know how to do the things today that people today have no idea about how to do. Absolutely nothing. Like if we had a nuclear bomb go off or an asteroid, let's say an asteroid slammed down in the United States somewhere and wiped out everything on the earth, or it could hit in China and wipe out all of our power grids and everything, people in the country are going to survive better than people in the cities are. You're gonna get your family and get the hell out of there as soon as you can, I bet you. Because the cities are not a place to be.
Oh, I'm with you, man. It'll be utter chaos. I mean, this is bad, but right, like COVID starts, and what do people do? They went and lined up to get toilet paper and hand sanitizer.
Yeah, that's exactly
I'm
right.
Like, if you think that you're going to be stuck in your house for weeks or months on end, you didn't think to stock up on food? Like, what are you going to do with all the toilet paper if you got no food? Like, the most common sense stuff is, hey, which makes me think of, I was reading this book about captives, and it was done like late 1800s, written about all these people from Texas predominantly that were taken as children captives by different bands, predominantly Comanches, Apaches. And the craziest part about it is they were all like journals from their kids or even direct journals from themselves. Most of those people never wanted to assimilate into like Western society again. Right. They always had that desire to be outdoors, fending for themselves, even sleeping on the ground. And I think that goes back into that whole, like, we're like naturally or organically tied to the earth, and we want to be that. When we put all this other stuff, once you get those skill sets, like, you don't see a lot of people go do that, go live on a boat or go live in a van or whatever it may be. They're not like, man, you know what I'm dying for? Is to go back and be in Manhattan. That really spikes my energy.
Yeah, like, let me get back to that rat race. They said even, Quanah Parker, whenever they finally, it's Quanah, right? The mom?
No,
that's not Quanah.
His mom is Cynthia Parker.
We go through this every time.
Yes.
She did not.
Cynthia Ann Parker.
She did not want to go back to the Western ways whenever they rescued her.
She'd been indoctrinated into the Indians' ways, and that's the life she lived.
Right, but
and she had children, and that she finally got over the hump of being a captive and become part of the clan.
Right, but you would figure like, hey, we're going to give you all these nice things, and she was like, no, it's not for me.
There wasn't a lot of nice things even back then for the people living good weren't living very good. That name of that book's called 1 Second After by William Fortstein. It's a good book.
1 Second After. Okay.
It's a really good book. He's got 3 books. It's 1 Second After, 1 Year After, and The Final Day.
Yes, I remember that.
But
this guy was a prepper, and an EMP went off, right?
Yeah, but he really wasn't a prepper. He
knew how to do shit.
He was a ex-military guy that was a professor at a college. But it's a very, very good book, and it's very down to how things. A woman stranded on the highway in a brand new BMW, I mean, it talks about everything that people are going to go through and just a shithole it becomes. And like you said, the toilet paper and these hand sanitizer shows us where we're going to be at.
It ain't going to get you very far.
People, people don't realize if we ever have something like this happen, whatever that, this one's from an EMP though, but let's say we have an asteroid, that's not a man-made problem, it's just nature. Well, a super volcano. People don't realize the government's not going to be there to be handing out fucking food to you. You better learn how to take care of yourself and your family. I mean,
that's the truth that people have to wrap their heads around. You know, like when all this started, our deep freeze is stocked, you know, from game all year long. And it happened and people were like, oh, there's a meat shortage. It's like, well, we don't have a meat shortage. We got tons of it. And, you know, when that freeze hit, especially down here, I mean, all of us got it. And we had to burn wood. Literally had to go to my wood stack and burn half of it for those 3 days just to keep the house warm. So many people are just left with no idea where to even begin. And that's the scary part. Like, they've lost the most basic facts of survival.
Yeah, if you'd have went to Houston in 1850, I don't even know how long Houston's been here. Let's say 1885. In Houston, 1805, every household, they knew how to survive. Whether it was making their own butter, whatever. Most households weren't cityfied so much they could do it. Now, I'm going to say less than 5% of the people there could survive 2 weeks if the grocery stores were shut down. They'd be killing each other, you know?
Literally.
It's so different out here for us, but we are set up in case something would happen for not forever, but I also me and Michelle had this conversation. She's becoming quite the prepper since the election. Democrats are the best thing for prep stores. I'm telling you right now. If I owned a prep store and the Republicans in office, it's going to be a slow 4 years or 8 years. But as soon as the Democrat gets in, the end of the world's coming. So everybody's buying every fucking thing they can.
And the problem is now you can't buy those things.
Well, we've got enough stuff set beside. We've bought the buckets of survival stuff to last us for 6 months for me and Michelle and our kids and grandkids. In case something bad happens, we got 6 months worth of shit. But I take for granted, we live out in the country. I can always get protein. There's deer, there's wild hog, there's birds, there's stuff. We'll be okay. But
sure,
it is something that we have. More people in America need to have a stash of food for at least 3 months in case something would happen. And not everybody can afford it, but it's not as expensive as you think it is.
Yeah. You know, and people always talk about, oh, why do y'all still hunt? Like, because we want this fresh game. We like the pursuit of it. Like, but it's not necessary. Like, getting your nails done isn't necessary. Getting the latest iPhone isn't necessary. But you find that to be justified. But you don't justify that we want to go out and pursue the outdoors. And then when shit does hit the fan, or the fact that the meat prices are going crazy right now, I'm like, so be it. I've got ducks piled up from last year. We've got some venison left over. You know, got some elk from a buddy. They love to laugh at you and say how silly we are until it comes to the time where they need it. You'd be like, well, I do have it, and you don't.
And then you're the first person that they call. They're like, you know what? I think he's still got some backstrap, or he's got a rump roast from a deer that sounds awfully tasty right now. Something that they wouldn't put in their mouth a year ago.
Let's talk about just heating your house. I had 5 freaking people get firewood off of me during the deep freeze last February.
Though.
No, and some shit stolen. I got some firewood stolen by some little juvenile delinquents down the street. And the thing is, I'd have given them some firewood, but I did. I had 5 people. Is there any way we just don't have a way to heat our house? We don't have no firewood. Blah blah blah. You live in a place there's mesquite wood everywhere. It's not hard to go pick up. So you can find wood, dead wood, and make. You don't even need the damn chainsaw and get fired. But they didn't have it.
Well, and they knew the storm of the century was coming.
Yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't
like it just came up out of nowhere.
But not prepared at all. Since we're talking about storms, your job fascinates me on these ships. What's the worst storm? Have you been through a typhoon or a hurricane on one of them big ships?
I was in the wake of a typhoon my first time out at sea, actually.
Ooh. Welcome to it.
Yeah, right. And it was funny because I remember reading, I was a cadet. My first ship, we were going to the Far East. We had already been over there for a little bit, but we were about to make our way back east to the U.S. And so I remember seeing the weather reports. I was like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And everybody on the ship who's seasoned, I remember the mate turned to me and goes, this is not going to be awesome. We're literally having to take shelter behind this island in Japan because there's no way out of it where we were. It's like, this is going to be our best bet. It's like, it's going to be so cool, though. I can't wait to begin a storm. It's like, you tell me about that when it's over. I literally that ship got thrashed so bad, flung my computer off my desk. I was a totally green, right? Like I didn't secure everything for sea properly, slung all my shit off my desk, broke the computer, threw me out of my rack. I ended up having to sleep on the floor for the rest of the evening. Just like a full 24 hours of getting the garbage beat out of us. Couldn't eat your meal. Like on watch, you're just standing up, just rolling. Literally, all the books are being thrown from the shelves. And he's like, "You still think it's fun?" It's like, "This is terrible. I don't want to do this ever again."
Yeah, I don't have sea legs at all. So, how long does that take to develop, or are people born with like sea legs, or did you get seasick also?
I was fortunate. I did not get seasick. I can remember actually one time of not feeling super hot, but it was on a smaller ship, and I was down below for most of the day. And so when you can't see the horizon, that's what I think throws a lot of people off. Your brain is looking out at a steady room, and your equilibrium is going back and forth, saying that the room's moving, and your brain and your eyes and your ears aren't putting it together. Like one of them's saying one thing, the other's saying another. Right. Something's off.
That makes sense.
But
go ahead.
I sailed with, man, he spent like 15 years at sea, and he got deathly seasick. Even till I couldn't believe that he spent an entire career like where he would be white, he'd be throwing up on watch. Like, dude, I don't know how you pursue this.
When would you decide that this life at sea is not for me? If you're 15 years and throwing up every time you leave port, I'd be finding something else to do.
Yeah, totally.
Do you have you ever done the container ships? Have you ever been on one of the ships that carries all the big containers everywhere?
Yeah, I have.
I saw a video the other day of a container ship that was just somewhere the other day and got in a big storm, and it wiped a bunch of containers, went off into the ocean.
Like 6 of them.
Yeah. It happens from time to time. It's like a really small margin of them just because the way they're secured. And nowadays, we've got technology, right? We've got radar, and we've got all this global satellite stuff where you can see developing storms, and you try to get out of the path as best you can. But every now and then they don't, and they do. They'll take a licking and eject
this one
things.
here. Didn't they just started falling off like a train track? Just fall off. A bunch of them fell in the ocean. I'm thinking, some poor fucker out there owns a shop waiting on his damn product to sell, and they're in the bottom of that. First of all, they probably ain't going to get it anyways. And have you ever had to do a rescue at sea?
I did not.
That's good.
I have a good friend that managed to be involved in 2 of them. Like, holy cow. But I did not.
Like ship going down, hey, we need it. We need help right now.
Literally, they ended up getting these accommodations, got flown to New York to get the captain did to get a medal for it. But they got a call. They were like headed towards the Med. They went over there and literally saw the freighter sink in the middle of the night. Said you could see the deck lights on. Everything's lit up as much as possible. They're yelling Mayday. They're in the vicinity. They can see them. Ship goes in, completely sinks, and they saved everybody.
Damn.
I mean, that's a story that it's like, dude, Tom, that is wild. To actually be laying like rope ladders over the side and trying to pull everybody in as much as possible in the middle of the dark. I mean, the weather was gnarly. I think it's blowing a gale. You got to think of the swells. The ship's rolling. There's bodies next to, like a 8,000-ton ship is a smaller ship. And you're pulling people up, like, and they saved everybody.
How fast is a gale? What's a gale?
So, I like a force 8. So, I'll do things by Buford force.
In miles an hour, how fast is a gale?
It's 25 miles an hour, isn't it?
No. You're going to be force 8?
What's a gale? Is a gale 25 miles an hour, though?
A gale's force 8.
I'm going to look this shit up because I don't know either. When you said force 8, Andy and me looked at each other like, what the hell does that? You might as well be speaking Japanese to us.
I don't.
Oh. Yeah.
I don't speak that.
Man, you start breaking them. I mean, literally, like, some of those forces will be like, it's 17 to 21 knots. You're like, how in the fuck am I supposed to know what that looks like? But we do it on a Buford scale where you look out and literally like how the water is being affected by the wind gives you a pretty good idea of what's happening. So you get up in all that. I mean, when you get into a gale, everything's shrieking in the shrouds. Like, you can hear the wind piling up against the windows. The water is completely streaked. Every time you get a little crest, I mean, that wind is being, and that water is being blown backwards off the swell, and everything's just big foamy mess.
Gale is, this is, don't even give you a damn really good answer on this.
I don't know that it's miles an hour. I think
A gale is 34 to 47 miles an hour.
That's whipping.
Yeah.
Hey,
and you called it a what? What'd you call it? A G8 or something?
Force 8.
A Force 8 is 40 to 45 miles an hour is a Force 8.
So there you go.
That's getting after it though, boy, out in the middle of the ocean, on a big ass ship for sure.
The Gulf Stream. So this is my problem. Have you seen Outer Banks on Netflix? Oh, it's a great show. You need to watch it. There's 2 seasons. I love it. It's my wife and I's favorite show. He gets in the Gulf Stream. He's coming back from Nassau, commandeers a boat, him and his girlfriend. He gets in the Gulf Stream and ends up, right outside of his hometown. Is the Gulf Stream's powerful enough? Because he was running out of gas, so he killed the motor, got in the Gulf Stream, and it miraculously took him where he needed to go. Is that horse shit, or can we actually do that if we get in the Gulf Stream?
I mean, it's like 2 to 3.5 knots, depending on, it can fluctuate. That's a pretty slow drift, but yeah, you could get in it and drift.
And he drifted from Nassau, Bahamas to
Charleston, South Carolina,
or wherever the hell they're at. I think it was actually supposed to be Outer Banks. I think it was in somewhere on. It don't matter. It's a TV freaking show.
But
I tell you what, Andy don't believe shit. But if they put it on fucking a Netflix series, and god dang it, it's the gospel.
I didn't say it was gospel. I wanted to know if it was even plausible. I don't think it is.
My dad thought Rush Limbaugh, everything he said was the gospel, and Andy thinks if it's Netflix, it is.
Jeff, they would starve to death on that freaking boat. It'd take you forever to get there.
That's the thing. I mean, think about it. You drifted at 2 knots. I mean, you're going like covering 40 to 50 miles in a day. I mean, I guess in like 5 days or so. Well, shoot, that's not
the Bahamas
even
is only 25
50?
miles off the coast of Florida.
But it's a long way from South Carolina.
Yeah, from up to Charleston. Yeah. Put me on that mileage. I mean, shoot, what's the drive to go from? That's got to be an 8-hour drive
at least.
Yes.
That's going 70.
If you're down.
I have no idea. Hey, while we're talking about shipping, the Q people, I have the Q people in my life. They're down these rabbit holes, and everything is a conspiracy. And I believe the government is not helping the American people out by any means. And I think this shipping shit, a lot of this is man-made. They said that now they're starting to do a lot of container ships through Florida because DeSantis is getting his people to move them. They said the Coast Guard is going in and blocking our ships from coming in. I do not know if this is true or not. I just heard this an hour ago. Is that possible, you think?
No. These people are. It's a couple things. It's like, y'all remember when the Suez Canal got blocked? And the first, oil is going to go up because the canal is blocked. You're like, well, 90% of the commerce going through there is not the bulk of your crude oil carriers, so that's garbage. They're like, look at all the ships going around South Africa. You're like, those ships are going around South Africa every day. They didn't just turn around and go and do that. So the same deal. DeSantis could open up Florida. The ships that are coming from the Far East to the U.S. West Coast, a lot of them are designed not to make it through the new Panama Canal. So even if they wanted to, they couldn't get through there. They're not going to go the other way because the fuel cost is exorbitant. And Florida doesn't have the ports that have the capacity that L.A. Long Beach does. So a lot of that's hoopla. The only thing the Coast Guard would do, the other thing, these people on these captains on these ships are not dummies. And these owners of these shipping lines aren't stupid. They know that they need to do these ENOADs, which electronic notice of arrival or departure. U.S. Coast Guard requires it before here, like hours. They're lining all this stuff up, sending it. The Coast Guard isn't just stopping people for the sake of it. I mean, the Coast Guard alone has so many jobs, they can't keep up with what they do to begin with. Yeah. So, I'm sorry to say, but a lot of that stuff I listen to, you're like, come on. Like, I love to beat up on shitty politicians and what they do, but then I don't want to fuel the fire for stuff that's totally inaccurate.
Explain about the Panama Canal. Are these ships too wide to go through the canal? Or why can't the ships go through? Because I did see some ships, they said, we're going through the Panama to go to Florida. That makes the shipping cost twice as much as it was, at least.
Well, I mean, there are people, the Port of Houston, right, is our volume for containers went up 20% plus. And when they started planning to build the new canal, I mean, this was over a decade ago, they were having those discussions coming to the U.S. Gulf Coast ports, U.S. East Coast ports. It changes the logistical string for these people. They're like, hey, yeah, there's more fuel cost, but then they start playing in different factors. Some stuff just can't go to L.A. Long Beach. Can't all go through there and be transshipped across the U.S. Ship's pretty efficient. So they had the original locks, and they can only take up a certain size. And then they built a bigger set of locks. They can take larger ships. But there are some ships that are just too big to go through there, that love to call U.S. West Coast. You know, they're designed for that trade.
Right.
So
and they've got
these ships are bigger than our aircraft carriers. Our aircraft carriers can fit through the Panama Canal, can't they?
Man, our aircraft carriers aren't that big.
They're
when you start looking at them.
The only ones I've seen are the old retired ones. I've never seen the new ones.
But you've never seen them compared to.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. And we don't have a lot of ships in West Texas, so this is a lot kind of new to me. Other than
he's going from memory here.
So these container ships are a lot bigger than our aircraft carriers, are what you're saying.
Yeah, go pull it up. Don't quote me. I don't even know what the size of the new locks are, to be perfectly honest. Before I go spout off a number, it's totally incorrect. But, I mean, the biggest ships out there, these container ships, are 400 meters long. I mean, you're getting up to, they're over 1,200 feet.
I can relate to that now.
You can?
The meters throw me every fucking time. If you told me it's 400 centimeters, like, God, that's so much big. I don't know.
With meters and yards, they're so close, just do it together. You're like, it's 4 football fields. 4 football fields long. You've got about 166 foot of beam, and then you got to deal with draft. These things are designed U.S. West Coast deep water ports. We don't have that kind of capacity in the Gulf Coast. It's a super shallow shelf way out, so they can't load down as much. So then it defeats the purpose of bringing a ship that size, even if they could get through the canal and a million other things. But it's like anything. They design specific ships for specific routes with a purpose.
Right. And now saying we'll just send it to Florida. Well, that's not possible. I mean, that's not plausible, because this ship was designed to go to the West Coast port. So like just saying, send it to Florida, well, the ship's not designed for that.
How big do you say these big container ships are? Did you say 4,000 feet?
No. 400 meters. So they're over 1,200 feet
the
long.
USS Ronald Reagan is 1,092 feet.
Did the U.S. Ronald Reagan go through?
Okay.
I don't know if they did or not. I just was comparing, because I was thinking, God dang, if they're sir?
The beam. What's the width on it?
The width is it's 252 feet overall. Water line's 134 feet. Length is 1,092 feet, and water line is 1,040 feet. The beam is 252 and 134, whatever the hell that means.
They have a 252 foot. I bet you that's the deck.
That's what it said. I'm sure that's that beam overall 252 and water line's 134.
Okay, so 134 could go through the canal, no problem. But some of these bigger ones, they're moving out. 166. I don't know what the biggest beam currently is on those container ships, but 166, it's over that, the 133.
So I was confused because I was thinking you said 4,000 feet. I thought, fuck, they build a aircraft carrier that big, they could land a B-52 on it.
Yeah, literally. You could put enough containers to please Amazon.
Yeah, no shit.
So when you were at sea and you would go to these different places, would you just take a day and try to get used to dick around, get assimilated into their culture, or did you not like to do that?
Oh, I absolutely love to do that. But one thing that people always are like, man, it's amazing. You go to all these places, and you're like, it's not a pleasure cruise. Like, we don't get to pull in and be like, guys, we'll start working tomorrow. Right. Let's just go goof off, right? That ship's being charged by the day, by the hour that they're sitting at the dock. But you better believe it. I mean, every chance I could get, I don't care if I'd have to work 18 hours, and I knew I could go to shore for 4 and then run back and sleep for like 2 before I started again. I was going to get it done.
I'd want to do that too. You want to see the places that you've been to. What's the roughest place you've been to, and what's the coolest place you've been to?
Roughest, West Africa. I mean, Those places are gnarly.
Which
Douala, Cameroon, Freetown, Sierra Leone, Monrovia, Liberia. I mean, you talk about utter poverty that people can't even begin to fathom. That's what gets me going. You know, these people complain about their little problems. You don't know what problems are until you go over there and see what these people are dealing with. I mean, Civil War scars, literally just being hacked up with machetes. This isn't a joke. I mean, people are missing limbs. They've got gnarly scars. They're stealing cornmeal off of the truck just so they can eat and try to resell it in the street. There's no electricity. There's no running water for most people.
Yeah.
Even where they do have electricity, it's like rolling blackouts. To go ashore, Freetown, Sierra Leone, and just see a city that looks like it was bombed after World War II and just left dirt streets. There's people just milling about in the dark. You can hardly see anything. Just headlights of cars wandering. I mean, it's a free-for-all.
Yeah. There's a picture on your Instagram of a black guy, Cameroon, and you said in the description, he's literally, his job is to hurl 110-pound bags all day long.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that's his job. And then that's going to get on a truck, and it's going to get stolen, and then it's going to get resold in the streets. And it just, you see this guy's face. You must be getting a phone call or something.
Yes.
But the look of despair on this guy's face, just knowing that this is my life and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. But that's his job all day long, 8 hours a day, 110-pound bags.
That's it. They would come in and it'd be a gang of 16, 2 guys per bag, and they would sling bags all day long for $4.50 a day.
And we're happy to have a job, probably.
I mean, they were ecstatic, and you would see it. So, like, when you load those bags like that, they're getting thrown on a conveyor belt. We're loading them here in the States and taking it over there. They'd be loading them, and a lot of times they'd crack just because the way those bags are being slammed down on each other. So when you get over there, that's damaged cargo. So on the other end, they're not going to want that. They're going to claim it for insurance, and then they're going to go, honestly, and then sell it off on the market. So those guys knew the stuff would break, and on top of it, they would break open the bags, and they would have like a little black plastic bag like you would get batteries put in, here in the States. And they would fill it up with whatever cornmeal, whatever soybeans that we had, legumes, pile it in that and put it in their pockets so they could take it home just to eat. I mean, we're talking like Ziploc bag size stuff. And I'll never forget this. I made a deal with these guys because they were breaking into stuff and stealing the bags so they could take more home, filling up backpacks. It's like, dude, this is our cargo. Like, you can't be doing this. It's not going to work, but I'll make you a deal. Any damaged bags you find, you put them in the corner and we'll disperse it at the end of the day. So if y'all start tearing these bags open, I'm going to take all that away from you and you're going to get nothing. I'm going to keep all of it to the ship. And so we made this trust thing with them. One guy was trying to steal some stuff. Literally had to go over and like, this bag's been cut by a pocket knife. Like, that's a perfect cut. It's not a break. We get into this thing and that gang turned on that guy, and you saw what it takes, like, in a community to root out evil that's going to steal from everybody else. Like, all of y'all are going to lose if you let this guy keep doing that. And they managed their own, and they took that, and the next day they showed up. They gave me a wooden bead necklace and a little bag full of bananas. Like, guys, man, I can't take this. Like, we got food on the ship. We got everything. Like, y'all make $4.50 a day. I don't know what that costs, even if it costs 50 cents. They're like, we want you to have this. And I'll never forget the look on their face, that group sitting together just so they could take some grain home to eat.
Well, that's good. So y'all were taking grain to them?
Yes. You part of that U.S. food aid. Which is a big racket.
Yeah, because it's all there's 1%ers in that country are making all the money off the shit, and just a waste of government money. It's not going to the people that need it.
It is not going to it. Like, a big deal, it was supposed to be lactating mothers were supposed to get X amount of grain delivered to them, and they're supposed to be able to go to a center and pick it up. It's all bullshit. That stuff hits the dock. It's being trucked into town to different warehouses. It's being stolen on the street as it goes to the warehouse. It's being pilfered in the warehouse. And then you see it on the street when you leave the port walking, these brown bags with a big American flag says U.S. Food Aid being sold secondhand on the black market because it's been stolen. And you're right. There's some big power players that are taking that stuff to their warehouse, reselling it. It's a total gimmick. It's a shame because it's supposed to have a good purpose to help out these women because there is huge poverty over there. And it's not. It's just being sold off and played around like another commodity.
Yeah, Africa is just a horrible. It shows it's a country that has, or a continent, and not all of it, but it's a continent that has never advanced in time at all. And if it wasn't for other countries in the last 100 years, they'd be no different than they were in the 1700s, probably. What have you been to Benin?
Did not.
What's Benin?
It's the home of slavery. It's where they shipped all the slaves out of, and they still today have a family that's over there. It's in the construction business. It was the original big slave traders.
Really?
Yep. And they still are in power over there, but now they do construction instead of humans. But
so what? And I'm fascinated by this stuff. Why can't they advance? Is there just is the 1%er? Is the other 99% of people there just so far behind the 1% that the 1% can just keep their thumb on them constantly?
Man, I mean, look at Central South America, right? You get into a period of so much corruption where you steal the power for the general public so much that, that 1% or that fraction of a 1% literally can just hold everybody down. They start exploiting everything. They own up all the factories. They own up, all the natural resources. And then look at it. Somebody wants to raise up. They start an army, a militia, and then all of a sudden you see the same thing happens. What I don't get is that you get power, and then they go do the same thing.
So it's like the United States of America and our politicians. It's just, we are on that crash course on that same track right now.
They say every great empire is 300 years.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, it's hard to. Everything you just described is the deep state. I don't give a shit what party you're in. It's the 1%ers up there that are controlling stuff, and one person owns everything. That would be called Jeff Bezos.
Now, but where did he come from? He didn't just spring out of nowhere.
Well, he's a smart guy. I've got to give it to him. He's a very intelligent person. There's no doubt about it, to build the empire he's built. But we have, 20 to 100 of those type guys right now that are controlling 90% of our country.
Hey, is your butt puckered whenever you go to these guys and like, hey, I know what you're doing, quit? Like, are you worried about like a revolt or anything?
Which, like those guys in the cargo hold stealing?
Yes.
No. I'll be honest. I was pretty young. I was pumped up, adrenaline junkie, and I had no problem fighting and doing those kind of things. So to me, it was like, I didn't get too worked up that I'm going to get stabbed or something. We had a utter chaos go on in the hold one day. At the end of the day, we'd have to close up the holds. I'm glad I don't work for this company anymore because they'd probably be irritated. We'd have to close the holds, and they were manual hatches. So we have to go up in the cranes, hook them up, and then close these hatches up for the end of the day because it rains in the evening. So you only work daylight hours. On top of that, the pilferage is terrible. So all these guys are milling about on the dock, and they're just there to steal stuff. Hands down. I've got videos of it. And anybody that wants to say otherwise, unless you've been there, you don't know. That's what they do. So they figured out what time we had to get in the cranes. And when we would disappear from the deck, they would start jumping over the portside rail. It was a low tide. They could get right over the rail, climb into the hold, and then start tearing open bags, stealing stuff, and jumping back over. And you want to talk about anarchy? Mm-hmm. It'd be wild. There'd be 15 to 20 people running around just tearing stuff up. And I ended up employing those guys that I made the deals with. Listen, y'all start patrolling this port side. Y'all keep them off, and I'll keep giving you the grain at the end of the day. But you let them come in and make chaos while we're closing this hatch up, you're going to lose out too. And again, they started policing it. I had this third mate at the time, man, and I just hear all this yelling and screaming. And this guy had told him to F off, and he had this guy choked up against the bulkhead. I was like, we cannot beat this guy up. But there'd be people running around with backpacks. Man, I'd be grabbing guys by the backpacks and throwing them down in the hold. Because at the end of the day, I was young, and a lot of people might not care for this, but I don't like thieves.
Right.
And if we were just going to keep letting this go, there were 2 to 3 of us in the cargo hold with 15 to 20 people. And all of a sudden, you started putting law and order down, and people were like, these guys are crazy. They're throwing us down in the cargo hold. This other guy was choking one of our buddies. Like, maybe we shouldn't mess with them so much. And between that and getting those guys to help us out, or trade for grain, those problems quit. We were finished with it. Those guys stopped climbing the rail, and all that chaos stopped happening. We were there for a week. So you don't like it.
It took you a week to unload?
I'm not gonna let that. Yeah.
That's a long time.
To put up with all that shit.
Yeah. It was a great experience for me. But, I mean, you can ask anybody that goes over there and deals with grain and cargo in West Africa. You're constantly worried about people stealing stuff. We were in Douala, Cameroon. We got the lifeboat outboard motor ripped off.
Oh, jeez.
Like, a guy literally, they came up in a canoe in the dark, climbed on board, stole it, and when one of our guys on deck noticed him, he threw it over the side into the river and jumped in the river. We're like, you dumbass. You don't get it. Neither do we.
Nobody gets this now. That was all for naught.
Did you ever go to Calcutta, India?
No, I went to Mumbai on the West Coast 2 times, and then I've been to Kakinada on the East Coast. Utter poverty.
Yeah, we got an old man. He passed away. Used to go to church with us, and he was a merchant marine. I guess I'm gonna guess probably in the late 50s, early 60s, and he went to Calcutta, and he says he remembers being. He told me the story himself that Sister Teresa would come down to the docks and would give soap to the merchant marines that were there bringing in goods or whatever they were doing, and she would be right there with all the people. And he said he remembers them day, and I always remember him telling me that story. I thought that was pretty interesting. But but I've heard India is a horrible place to be also.
Man, there is so much of it that I want to go over and travel and see, because to me it's an incredibly beautiful culture. But they do have a ton of poverty. I mean, the poverty in Mumbai, I was a cadet. I was like 19, maybe 20 at the time, first time. And to wander around the city, it's like going to Manhattan with just cars, horns, and the amount of crippled people was never left my mind. I mean, guys on these you would move furniture on like a little wooden cart, would be in the middle of the street, just like crawling around on hands with no legs. And I've never understood what this mass amount of crippled humans was from. But I mean, people were living in what I thought were like pigeon coops. They were like 2 stories tall wooden structures all the way down the street, and they lived right there, and they used the restroom right there, and they cooked right outside on the street. It's like, that was my first step outside of like Western culture to see poverty at a new level. And then again, it goes back to like, they're not going out and killing their food. They're not growing it. They're in the middle of the city. Like, this is utter chaos.
I couldn't go there. They got freaking alligator or crocodiles, and they got cobras. So I'm out on and tigers. So I'm out on all that shit.
But I think a lot of these lessons are important for people to learn. Like, my wife and I, we're very comfortable. I mean, we've got a nice house. All of our shit's paid for. We've got 2 beautiful kids. I can't convey to my kids how lucky they are to have this. He got a Nintendo Switch for his birthday. I mean, it's like, come on. Like, there are kids literally that would kill to have a Nintendo Switch and anything that he's got. And it's tough. He's 7. So, I mean, you don't want to be like this Debbie Downer, but like he needs to, there's going to come a time where he's going to have to see and appreciate what he's got and what a lot of people do not have. And, you seeing that stuff in camera, the absolute you're not going to get any lower than where you are. I mean, it's dirt floors. It's $4 a day. You're happy to have it. It is poor beyond anybody's imagination. And, a lot of people need to see these things so that they can appreciate, what, maybe the new iPhone isn't anything to get worked up about. Maybe slow internet's not that bad of a deal.
yeah, everything's perspective, right? I mean, if you don't have a baseline or whatever your baseline is, like, that's just what I got, you know? Like, I was really fortunate myself as a kid being raised and not seeing that. Parents taught me hard work and so forth. But until I got to see that, like, it makes you appreciate what you have and what you don't need. So everything that you get is a bonus. You're like, man, this is incredible that I've got these extra things. Like, I've got these brand new shin waders. I've got, you know, this killer gun, and I've got the ability to just go in my freezer and take whatever I want. Like, I've seen people that don't know where their next meal is, maybe haven't seen their next meal for days. It's like, can I please get some clean water from the ship? Can we please fill up this bottle so I can take a gallon home? You know, you're like, holy shit. Like, this is real. Like, this is going on in the world all around you when y'all are whining and crying about your bullshit and you didn't call me the right pronoun or you didn't address me the right way. I'm like, it's so minuscule. Like, yeah, your opinion matters and so forth, but you don't know what suffering is. If that's suffering in your life, you need to get a plane ticket and go see what people are dealing with.
Yeah. Or try to pull that shit anywhere other than civilized world. Go try to pull that shit in Afghanistan right now. They'll hang you from the fucking rooftops and not think twice about it.
You know,
that too.
We've got the same situation in our big cities right now, all over America. In Houston, Texas, where you're at, there's no telling me homeless people are there. Now, the advantage is they can go to a convenience store or something, and there's a water fountain outside, or they can open
there's
up a
an
spigot
infrastructure
and get clean water. And
there's an infrastructure for these people.
Anybody that's homeless in the United States of America that really wants help can find somewhere to get some help, a shelter to go to and stuff. Them other countries don't have that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no center set up for any of it. You're like, the mass of the population is just living like that. I mean, they're living at a caliber that our homeless live in. And they're like that guy, Momo, he came back one day and he picked me up. He's like, hey, when I get off work, like, I want to come back. I want you to see my house. He was so pumped that he had electricity. Cool. The guy spent 50 cents to get home and 50 cents to get back to pick me up. I learned, it's like, dude, I'm covering like everything tonight. This is ridiculous. Yeah. You made $4.50 and you spent $1 so you can come show me this place. We went there and he was so bummed out because he didn't have electricity. They were having a rolling blackout. There was nothing, you know, and he was pumped.
Right.
Just the fact that he had a roof over his head, that he had a well right down the street, that he had running electricity at some time. Like, and that was like living decent.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, perspective.
How long does it take you to write a like a description? Because on your Instagram, you'll post a picture, but you'll have a really nice write-up. How long do those write-ups usually take you to do? Do you spend a lot of time on that?
I don't know. Maybe. Look, if you notice the infrequency of what it is, I mean, I've got 2 kids, got a normal job, and run around. And I do find that finding that ability to sit down and let my head clear is difficult. So I don't rush them out anymore. Mm-hmm. But man, I probably sit down 10, 15 minutes and just get something will catch my attention. Some conversation I had with somebody or something that happened in the house. And then it just kind of sparks. And I just sit and just wander off into thinking like a back on the ship, just off into no man's land.
Right. Yeah. Cause I mean, and you've got a lot. I mean, there's a lot of good wisdom on there. And I mean, the pictures are killer. What got you into photography? Was this something is this a bug that you always had growing up, or is this something that you found later in life?
So when I was in high school, I wakeboarded like crazy. And back then you could still edit your own videos and do all that stuff. And I thought, oh man, we should just document this. We could be like these other guys. So then that kind of led to like this creative outlet. My dad gave me an old film camera that he had, said, look, you take this to college, you shoot this all year. And before you go to sea, if you're still doing it, I'll buy you this DSLR. It was the first digital SLR that came out with Nikon made. And I took it and I shot photos and they're dog shit. I mean, they're absolutely terrible. And I remember looking at them, I was like, oh, these things are so cool. Yeah, they're garbage. And then it kind of fell off the wayside. I mean, I enjoyed it, but there was so much going on. And I picked it up again when I was going back to sea, and I kind of hit a slump where I wasn't enjoying being out there. I was letting too many factors get in my own head. And then I started, hey, I need an outlet while I'm here. And working out not going to be the only one. And that's where it started spinning up. I was able to take that time, the thoughts in my head and the journal I was writing. And I also wanted to share these places that I was seeing that nobody else, and I probably was never going to return to.
Right.
It's like, let me photograph this. Let me start showing what life on a ship is like, because it gave me an outlet just to do something in the day. It's like, I need to take one picture a day. Just let me look at something a little bit different. And yeah,
That's
kind of try to do that same with the outdoors. I'm like, it's not just about hunting and killing and strap photos. Like, dude, there's a whole story going on here. There's human emotion and there's this beautiful outdoors. Like, let me just try to show what I see in it, why I find it to be important, and maybe somebody else does. And that's where it's gone. It's just a wander that happens in my own head.
Yeah, I don't think you have one pile picture on your entire Instagram, or not one that I found, but like you get the essence of the hunt that you were on.
My favorite one is you and the kids in the swimming pool with the decoys.
That was funny. I was talking to Emily from Gunner, and we were going to do a spoof for New Year's Eve. I'm like, I think it was New Year's. Yeah, it was New Year's. And I was like, man, I can't go to the club, and I don't have anything from this season. It's like, looked outside, like, perfect, kids. Go get this pop-up blind. Throw all this shit out there.
Yeah. And so, I mean, now, like, it's opened up so many doors for you, just like you said. I mean, you know, you've got connections with Gunner. You've got connections with Southern Oak Kennels. Like, people just use these platforms recreationally too much. Like, there is a path. If you can channel what you're doing, the doors can open for you. And just as simple as something like, you know, you posting a good picture with a good caption, and like all these different avenues start opening for you if you use these channels properly.
Yeah. And there's two things. Like, so I got rid of Facebook several years ago. Like, this is meaningless. Like, there's nothing on here that's of value to me. I'm just looking at garbage. And then I feel bad, but I'll have friends like, you didn't see what I was doing? Like, I'm sorry. I get on Instagram to see good photography or to read something, and you're like, just junk house photos aren't going to do it for me. I'll just call you, right? Or we'll go hang out or something. And yeah, and then sidestep that. I feel that I've taken the ability to just keep my ears open all the time. I'm like, man, it's like when I was traveling, the amount of stuff I would see being on the street. Like, if I had had my face down in a phone, wandering the streets of Mumbai, I would have missed all of this.
Right.
And the same deal with media. Like, people just happen to wander through my life, or I happen to wander through their life, and a path crosses. And years ago, my wife and I were on a road trip. It was like early Instagram days. And I had a picture of a map. We were doing an East Coast road trip. And we're like planning it out. I never forget, I put the picture up, and this guy sends me a message. And that's, again, when people like really weren't messaging.
Right.
He's like, hey, man, see, you're coming right through Raleigh, North Carolina. Why don't you just stay at my house? And him and I had talked about duck hunting, like, quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So my wife's like, where are we staying? It's like, oh, this guy Graham. You know, I know him on Instagram. It's like, have you ever met him? It's like, no, not at all. And he's an absolute dear family friend. He comes to the house once a year and stays here. My wife and I are actually going to stay with him and his wife next month. Like, I took a chance.
That's badass.
You know, you take, yeah, right. And you take that gut feeling, like, okay, this person sounds like a creep. But if you have enough conversation with somebody, unless they're a serial killer, like, they're like just genuine human emotions are going to come through, and you're going to be like, that's a decent person. I've had enough connection. Why the hell not? Like, I don't live in fear that somebody's going to shoot me when I go into their house, or there's some like sicko around every corner. There's a lot of fucked up people, you know, but
oh, my wife would have killed me.
See, I am what you, I am so jealous of people like you. And I was telling Jeff, you know, just last week, I went to a birthday party, and there was a guy, and he's been all over, done everything. And I'm just like, I want to be that so bad, but I'm the guy that's like, nope, that is a serial killer waiting to happen. This is before the Airbnb days. People don't just invite you into their homes, pal. Like, you're ahead of the curve here. So I'm that person. It sucks. I hate it. I mean, if I could have your outlook on life, there's no telling what would happen.
me and Michelle go a lot, and we get invited a lot of times, and we've had the same deal. And if I took someone up on their offer to stay at their place, she would be getting a room at the in a hotel in town, and I'd be staying by myself because she's just ain't going to do that.
But you miss out on so many great opportunities. Just
There's
like you
no
said,
doubt.
you're lifelong friends with this guy now.
There's no doubt about that. I'm with you 100%, but I'm telling you, your mom's not going to do that.
Well, and I hate to be a burden on people.
Yeah, because I feel like people are just saying that to be nice. Because when I invite people to stay at my house, I'm usually doing it just to be polite. I'm not really meaning for them some bitches. I'm afraid when I say, "Hey, well, you can stay with us when you come through,"
okay,
and they say, "Okay," I'm like, "Shit."
I wasn't serious.
I got 72 beds out at the lodge. You're welcome to stay out there. That's my go-to.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about that, Andy. You are that person.
Right.
Y'all have a lodge and a hunting outfit, and people are coming in and out of your doors that you've never met, and you're trusting them.
That's true.
You're trusting them in a situation with guns, and you don't know. I mean, right?
That's true.
So you do have that.
Yeah. The problem is I'd think like I'm gonna get there. This guy, he's gonna be so annoyed with like me, my wife. What if am I talking too much? Am I not talking enough? Like when do I need to go to bed? I'm neurotic in that way. Like I'm not easy in social situations because I'm like, fuck, am I talking too much? Like, was that joke funny? Was that joke not funny enough? Did I use the F word too many times? So I don't know. I'm a little bit neurotic in that way in a social environment. I don't hang well. I always feel like, oh shit, we need to be going.
That's interesting. Because y'all can talk like crazy on here. I mean, y'all cut it up on all kinds of topics.
I'm not good in social situations. Like I'm not good to just have over and.
I'm not that way.
No. I have to work. Like seriously, I have to work at this. This is not something that comes naturally to me. Like there was a couple episodes ago where I said like I'm a grinder at everything that I do. This is another thing. Like I'm not natural. Talking to people. Like this is something I have to work at. Jeff here, he just throws shit off of the fly and runs with it, and I'm like it's tough for me because like I'm thinking of like 3 topics down the line always.
Okay.
And Jeff here, he just takes it as it comes and it's all organic and great, but
I talk to people. It don't matter where I go. I can go to a restaurant in Charleston,
South
Carolina and visit with anybody.
There was a guy, I was at a barbecue place yesterday, the Shed Market in Abilene, great barbecue. And there's a guy there. It's like family style dining, and there's a guy I did not know. I had to take my dog to get his semen tested, which he didn't fucking perform, so that was $20 to the vet that I'm not going to get back. So, yeah, I spent my whole day in Abilene, Texas yesterday to get my dog jacked off, and I get a call from the vet 5 minutes in. He's like, sir, your dog will not perform. I'm like, well, did you warm your hands up? Like, is there nurses around? He's like, he has totally locked down, and I can't get near him. So
Need a whole episode of Penthouse Letters from
and it's all
1987.
curbside, so I can't get into the place to, like, let my dog know, like, hey, it's okay. Like, they're professionals. They're going to get you off, and we're going to go home, and you're going to have a treat. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
So you went and ate at a family-style restaurant?
The Shed Market in Abilene is the best barbecue place I've ever been to.
Okay.
I've not been to a ton of barbecue places. It's the best. The brisket is fucking phenomenal.
If you're at the Shed, I will be sending you a bill for advertisement.
The Shed Market off Buffalo Gap. It's family-style dinner, and there's this guy. I sit by myself in a corner. I have my Yingling beer. I'm like, it's been a shit day. I'm going to enjoy this. This is what I'm doing. There's a guy at the end, and he's trying to talk to me about ribs. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck, guy. Like, just please let me eat. I'm trying to worry about my dog here, and you're just talking.
That might end up being your best friend. I like to talk to people. Everywhere we go, I don't ever meet very many strangers. And I love to visit. He's going to show you Yingling beer, I bet.
Yingling?
Actually, they're out in the garage. I've got a beer fridge in the garage we keep. That has Yingling. This is Twisted X.
What is that?
Man, he's out of Dripping Springs. A buddy of mine makes it out there, and
that's the alcohol capital of the world now.
Golly, everything's out there.
Something in the water or something.
Well, they can't be in Austin.
They're
vodka.
They're prosecuting attorney. One of the big guys that's in there in court is the guy who teaches us law at all our judges conference. I think he might be the county attorney for him or something. Anyways, you're a beer guy. Have you drank the sour beers?
I've drank some. I'm not a huge fan of them, to be
Man,
honest.
I'm not a beer drinker. The aftertaste, I've never liked beer that much unless it's got tomato juice in it, and it's because I'm from Wichita Falls and I love red draws. But man, I love the cherry sour and the blueberry sour beers. Man, they're good.
You can only have one or two.
I only drink one anyways.
You get the rock gut.
I drink one beer once every 3 days. I'll have one beer at night, and that's what I'll drink now, and I like them. So
Fair enough. What's this red draw?
you've never had a red draw? It's beer and tomato juice. It's a Wichita Falls thing, and
It's not that good.
it's really good. It's real good. You can
It's like
you can make them pink or red. If you put a pink, you don't put as much. Take a frozen mug, throw you a Michelob Ultra, Coors Light, whatever kind of beer you like, and throw in a splash of tomato juice and make it red or pink. And I'm telling you, a little salt, woo!
No.
They go down smooth, and you can drink a lot of them real fast.
Oh, I love those. We have them down here, but they call them micheladas.
No, separate deal.
Yeah,
That's
You're getting them on a rant.
you're Mexicanizing it. That's what you're doing. You're throwing EZ on the end of it. When you drink it the way we do in Wichita Falls, it's just tomato juice and beer.
That's all it is. It's literally your favorite beer and Campbell's tomato juice is all that it is with a little bit of salt. It's terrible.
It's fucking awesome.
It's terrible. Micheladas, I can do those all day long. I love those things.
But you know, it's funny when you go to Mexico. Me and Michelle were in Cancun with the place we stay at, and they do a michelada there, and it's lemon juice, beer, salt over ice, and it's damn good too.
Oh, no tomato
juice at all. Because he goes, I saw him make them, and I'm like, what is that? And he goes, that's a michelada. I said, what's in it? And he told me. I said, I'll try one of them. Them fuckers are good, but they don't do the. But they don't do it with tomato juice down there. But up here, micheladas, they throw the tomato. It's like Bloody Mary mixed with beer is what it is up here, or what y'all having down there.
Yeah.
In Wichita Falls, when you order a red draw, it's just tomato juice and beer.
Red draw. So I'm gonna bring some hot sauce when I'm up there. Put a couple drops, and I can be like, "Hey, look, I got a michelada."
That would be a michelada.
Yeah,
Once you put some
technically.
spice in it.
Yeah.
And your name goes from Stanfield to Stanfieldez when you start drinking them like that.
I love a michelada. Oof. Those are dangerous. Well, we put a lot of lime in ours. We got a recipe from one of our good friends, and I think it's Zing Zang.
Where's your friend from?
It's Guggenheim.
Well, he's a Texan, so that would work then.
Yeah.
Where are you a foodie? What's the best weirdest shit you've eaten in one of these? Or do y'all even eat in the ports? I'm sure you don't drink their water, but do you eat in the ports?
I did not drink the water. I was smart enough about that, but I am totally the guy that eats off the street, like that random cart, a 55-gallon drum in Sierra Leone cooking chicken. You guys are like, you're not really going to eat that. I'm like, hell yeah, I am. It was probably, for me, I was in Indonesia, Batam, Indonesia, and man, we were discharging some, they weren't locomotives. What the hell were they? They're big heavy lift pieces. They're like 150 tons. And we finished the day. Oh, they're big pressure vessels. That's what they were. And rode a scooter into town with this guy, like literally on the back of it. Went to the market and ate a giant plate of snails. And I had never eaten escargot. Man, I'll be honest. They were fucking delicious. They were so good. I went back the next night and did it again. I was like, can we do the snails again?
We had escargot on our trip to St. Lucia. I've never had it before, and I was hammered. So I couldn't really tell you what it tasted like. I knew it was good, but we went to an all-inclusive place, and I was going to get my fair share. So my wife and I were both drunk, and we're like, bring us the snails. They were good, but don't ask me to tell you what it tasted like. All I know is I would definitely eat it again.
Okay, fair enough.
Have you had what's the fruit, the smelliest fruit?
Durian.
Have you ever been around any of that stuff?
That stuff, I don't know how anybody eats that. I ate durian pudding in Singapore one time, and I don't have a bad gag reflex. I mean, that sounds terrible. But I'll never forget taking a spoonful of that and literally gagging and spitting it back up on my plate right there in the middle of the restaurant. It's like, what rotting garbage smells like is what it tasted like and lingered in my mouth. It was disgusting. There's signs everywhere. In Singapore, you're not allowed to bring it into most hotels.
What's the fascination with this? Why are people still carrying this on?
I have no idea. Honestly, I can't wrap my head around it. I'm like, it tastes like rotting garbage. What part of this is good?
So the taste is even bad. It's not
gross.
just the smell. The taste is horrible also.
Oh, the taste was
I saw
terrible. Probably one of the worst.
I saw them selling them on the streets of New York one time, and I always regretted not buying one and just trying it.
They'd fucking kick you out of everywhere. You'd have to eat it in the street, in the alley.
I fucking New York, you could throw
can't
it away.
go anywhere.
Well, you could throw it somewhere nobody'd even notice the smell.
I don't think they let them on the subways in New York.
Well, I don't know.
Which I'm not riding a subway in New York anyway, because that's just my personality. Wish I could.
Oh, Andy, you miss out on so much.
I do, and it pisses me off. I've got it's a problem. It really is. I need to explore more. So, did you grow up waterfowl hunting, or is this something that you found later on in life?
I would say grew up. I never forget my great grandmother's house. She lived like 40 minutes from us, still in the country kind of deal. I go over there, and she had this old gun cabinet that belonged to my grandfather, and it was in the back room, lit up, and we'd go over there and shoot our BB guns and be kids. But I would look at it. Man, it's so cool the way the fluorescent lights lit it up. You know, it's like seeing the sword and the stone glowing. And my dad would tell me stories about them waterfowling. And my grandmother's side of the family are hardcore waterfowlers, just outdoorsmen. So around 12, my dad finally took me, went on a dove hunt, and then ended up going and duck hunting. And then from about 13, maybe 14, I'd say 14, we got our first lease in Sargent. Absolute garbage. The first duck I ever shot was banded.
Oh, what was it?
Model duck.
Whoa.
I didn't shoot anything. Man, pretty much like cow pasture, right? All junk. And I'm this little kid, and I decided, hey, I want to go wander around. And there was a little baby slough up against the fence. It bordered the wildlife refuge. And I was just walking down that fence line, and these two ducks came up. Up they went. I shot one, went over the fence, climbed over the barbed wire fence. I know it's illegal now, and got it. Came back. It's like, holy cow! It's got this metal on its leg.
The very first one. Man,
first one. I swear I couldn't make that up if I wanted to.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's when it started, and then from there, it's just been gas pedal.
I know a guy that's gone. Dan Reese, 17 years, hunted 17 years, nothing. Finally shot one this year.
I've only shot 2.
Oh, really?
I shot that one. Yeah, first duck ever. And then I don't even recall where I got the other one. And I sunk an airboat years ago. And the only thing we lost was my game bag. It floated off in the wind. And my call was in there. Lost that one here.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
I mean, we went to Alberta 2 years ago. And they shot bands every day. Didn't shoot a band. That's my entire life of all these years.
You know what? Maybe you're just shooting smart ducks, because if you really think about it, a banded duck is dumb enough to get caught by a human being and then released and then get shot. So it's not like you're shooting the smartest ducks.
That too. And down here, I mean, we just don't get a ton of them, right? Like I'm shooting down the coast. We just don't have a lot of banded ducks.
So let me ask you this, because our first line of communication was after we had the Flyway Federation guy on. You know, heating ponds are the reason that Louisiana aren't seeing any more ducks. Well, have you noticed a sharp decline in the number of ducks where you are in South Texas?
Man, totally. I mean, I could see a noticeable difference from, we used to hunt Trinity Bay, and like between listening to stories from my great grandfather, the way the ducks would pile up in all that Wallaceville project, how the ducks rafted in the bay, to when I started hunting and watching year after year how much slower our hunts got. So I got to the point, I was like, Dad, I'm not hunting out here anymore. Like, this is miserable. We just come sit out here. The wind, we only come out on a hard norther. To now, even where I'm hunting in Anahuac, you're definitely seeing a decline in birds, like hands down. Go ahead.
Is it urbanization? Is it lack of winter? Is it a melting pot of just kind of every reason that you could possibly think of?
I mean, I'm not a biologist, so I've got my own 2 ideas from what I visualize. Urbanization, for sure. I mean, all this stuff where I grew up driving over there to go hunt along the way was all pasture. Most of it was agriculture. Has now been mowed down. It's warehouses. It's an H-E-B shopping center. It's all new neighborhoods. And even, I mean, I can recall going from, we used to travel to real South Texas, like South Padre all the time. Go west of town through Katy, the Katy Prairie, right? I mean, you saw birds trading. You don't see there's no more Katy Prairie. It's Katy Mills Mall, and you watch birds trade. Same deal when I'd go east to my grandmother's that lived in Pensacola. I mean, you'd see it from when you left it early in the morning, going across I-10, going through Louisiana. You just saw birds trading back and forth across these fields all morning when the sun broke. That's not happening anymore. They're just, the numbers are down. And 3 years ago, I went to a hunt down in Mansfield, and they had a DU guy come in, and he gave a big, 30-minute presentation with slides and data. And they've got the data. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they won't say that it's the Midwest cutting us off. It's not global warming. They don't want to put a name on it because they're DU. But they've got the hard data, and they show these literal shifts of the populations where they are. We don't house them. And one of the big things he had said was, it was like November. He said we had already depleted the entire food source for the amount of birds that property or that section of the state should hold per capita. He goes, those birds don't have any reason to stay. They come down, they've mowed out what's here. And so then they bounce back north. I mean, they're not dumb. Right. They come down to eat. I mean, y'all talk about seeing shifts just when y'all, right?
Yes. Yeah, especially the lesser Canada goose. 2-3 years ago, it was extremely wet. We had one of the best duck seasons that we've ever had. But since, there was water everywhere, every field had just, a little bit of water in it at least. And it was a phenomenal duck season. Well, the year after that, all that sheet water was gone. We didn't see the ducks. And we went through a real bad drought in 2011. A lot of our roost lakes dried up, and the Canada geese have shifted. They've shifted to the Panhandle. They've shifted to Lubbock, Amarillo. Thank God we had some stupid specklebellies that are like, no, this is where we call home. We love the peanuts. And, we're seeing more and more specklebellies each year earlier. Now we can't hunt until November 13th, but I'm serious. October 15th, we had a huntable number of specklebellies here. So if we could shoot 3 specks instead of 2, I would have nothing to bitch about. And if I could shoot them first weekend in November instead of the second, I would have absolutely nothing to bitch about. But, yeah, I mean, like you said, they're not stupid. They're coming down here to survive. They're going to go where resources are plentiful. And, if you get in, if you start pressuring birds enough and you put enough pressure on them and there's not really a reason to stay, why would they? But I also wonder, how much of that we've only been studying ducks and geese not very long. So what would the data show 400 years ago, 300 years ago? Have there always been these big swings? The famous place, Southern Illinois used to be Canada goose capital of the world. Rochester, Minnesota, the eastern coast of Maryland. There's all these places that have gone from this waterfowl mecca to the locals being there saying, shit, I really don't even have enough birds here for me and my kids to go out and hunt. So I'm wondering if there's always been these swings that we just didn't have recorded data for.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. It's like dealing with your climate, right? You only study a little bit. You're really going to study that little fraction and tell me definitively that you know what's going on? I mean, not to, tell anybody they're totally wrong, but yeah, we could be missing a lot of stuff. But from what they have, I think the data started in the 60s that he showed us on that graph. That's pretty wild. I mean, very, very major shifts. Not like, we're like 20,000 short. It's like, y'all don't have any geese there. This is where they all are.
Yeah.
Don't mind me. I'm walking around. I'm actually looking for a book.
No, you're good.
Well, I grew up hunting in the late 70s and early 80s.
You went down to the Katy Prairie.
Yeah, I did. I hunted in the Katy Prairie in the 80s, and there was geese everywhere. But a lot of the places that we hunted are parking lots and houses now. It's the mall. But what was really amazing, looking back now, is that we had winters every winter. I mean, we had cold weather, and I didn't, as a kid, that was part of it. You didn't think about it, but I remember my dad coming to get us out of school multiple times every year because it would start snowing. And if it would start snowing out there during the day and all them other kids are like, ooh, I'd be like, we're going to get to go hunting. And Dad would pick me up and we would go hunting. But
You're excited. You might miss school, motherfucker. I'm going hunting.
I'm going hunting. But we had winter. I mean, there was days that we didn't. I mean, there was years I'm sure it was less than others, but we always had winter. My grandparents lived in Kansas. They always had a white Christmas, and it was snow on the ground. And now, if Joe Bastardi is right, it looks like we're going to have some big snow in November and December this year, and it's going to cover up all the Dakotas and Nebraska. That's what we're going to take, because the heated ponds and all that will be good, but they can't heat the cornfields up. If they get snow and they get 6 inches to 12 inches of snow and it stays all winter, those birds are going to leave a lot of them. They won't have nothing to eat.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My only thing to your story, Jeff, is how much of that is like Ron saying 1983 was the coldest that we've ever had? Because I can remember as a kid.
remember a lot of. I mean, I remember it was cold every. No, it was cold though. We don't get cold no more. I'm not saying.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm wondering how much of it was you just being a young kid, and that's what you remember from 50 years ago.
Well, I'm not talking about just that one long winter. I just remember we had winter every year. I remember breaking ice on ponds growing up hunting all the time. It was really it was not that uncommon, is what I'm saying. It's not. You can talk to the old timers around here that raise cattle. How many of them have had break ice?
Right.
It happens.
Yeah.
So I'm not debating it. Probably is. It's like a dog that dies. When a dog dies, that dog gets better every year from then on. You go to a funeral, and the worst son of a bitch in town was a great guy when they're burying him. Everybody's like, oh, he was such a good guy. You called him a sorry fucker the day before, but now he's dead, and he's a good guy. So, but we definitely had winter back then. Every winter we had some winter. Well, we hadn't had freaking winter other than the cold shot in February last year.
Which does absolutely no good for migration.
Now, when you look at 2021, when they say the winter of 2021 or the average temperatures are 2021. No, it's 2021 right now.
Yeah.
Our average temperature is probably going to be lower because we never really had a hot summer. We had a hot late August and September, but we had all that cold vortex for 15 days. It was so far below. So if the weather
skew the averages,
30 years from now, the climate, people are going to look back and say, "Ooh, 2021 was a cold year." Well, so far it hasn't been, other than 2 weeks
in February. Yeah,
in February, that didn't help us a bit. So,
yeah.
Anyways.
Oh, that's our rant.
I mean, I think about it like, you think about look at all these big joints that are popping up in I call the Midwest. All these big outfitters that weren't there. If ducks had been there for decades, there would have already been lodges and people hunting there. But the fact that these guys are moving in, scooping up because birds are showing up or they're cultivating an area to bring them in, to me seems to lend just simple thought that, hey, there are ducks there that weren't there before. Something's changed.
That is a very good point.
There's a fat guy in Knox City, Texas that's got a podcast that talks about this before, and he has said 1,000 times, those guys that are in business in Kansas and Nebraska that are in the outfitting business are in for a really hard, bad year one year, because we're going to have a normal winter that we used to have in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And there's a reason why you can't find an outfitter that's been in business for 25 or 30 years, because they would have been out of business because it's going to lock up and freeze up and all them birds are going to happen, or they're going to go. When I first got in the business, there wasn't hardly any outfitters in Oklahoma I mean, very few, if any, other than a few little small town deals. And there was none in Kansas or Nebraska, really. And I'm sure some guy's going to say Cletus has been guiding up here for 50 years, and he may have been. I don't know. But there wasn't very many of them, and that's exactly what you said is why. Because December and January, they would freeze up, and the birds would be gone. In 2005 or about 2004 or 5, we had talked about opening a place up at Great Bend, Kansas. We'd looked at it, and we were going to open up a lodge up there also. And that winter, it froze up and everything left up there for 10 days or 2 weeks. And I was like, thank God I didn't do that shit.
I didn't do that.
2 weeks and no birds, and they're all gone, and you got to give deposits. I mean, you can't. I don't know what you would have done, but it would have been financial ruins for us. But that's the reason why there wasn't anybody really running a big operation up there, because of that. And you said it best. That's why there wasn't no out lodges. Like, you hear about old time lodges all over Louisiana, Arkansas. You can find some old hunt clubs in Missouri, but you can't find an old hunt club in Nebraska or Kansas, because their seasons are different. Like the North Dakota and South Dakota, their season opens in September and October. Well, Nebraska and Kansas, their stuff don't open until usually late October and is going to go through December or January. So you're a wise man.
I don't know about that, but Hey, that book I was talking about, this guy told me about a couple years ago. It's called Waterfowl Tomorrow. Right? United States Department of the Interior wrote this thing in 1964.
Oh, wow.
If you can find a used copy, I mean, it is going to be a used copy. I highly suggest it. But they go in, it's 600, 700 pages.
Shit.
Graphs, badass old drawings right from the 60s and stuff. And they were talking about it then in the 60s, the Department of the Interior, about loss of agriculture, shifts of bird migrations, where they're wintering. And that was back then. They were already saying, we're in trouble. Like, these birds are going to have a hard time. But, hey, I mean, their population numbers aren't hurting.
Right. They're just adapting. And shifting
around.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Waterfowlers of Tomorrow. I'm going to look it up right now. I'm going to try to buy it.
Just Waterfowl Tomorrow.
Waterfowl Tomorrow. Jeff's going to the biggest bookstore on the planet. The guy he was just bitching about 30 minutes ago. He's going to line his pocket.
I said he's a smart guy.
Mm-hmm. Go on, pay the man.
I'm fixing to.
Line his
1964 bestseller.
That's not a bad deal.
$9.14 for a hardcover book.
That's not going to be over your head with all those graphs and stuff, Jeff?
No, I bet I can figure it out.
The opening chapter is Waterfowl in a Changing Continent. I mean,
there it is right there.
And what is something like this is that a government entity wrote this so long ago, and how incredible it is.
Wait.
I wonder when the last time they printed a book that was worth the shit.
Don't buy that, Jeff, because I think I've got that on my... Let me look before you buy that. I just saw it on your thing. Show it to me real quick. Oh, I'm going to feel like an asshole. Oh, fuck, I've got that book. Somebody sent that to me. A listener sent that to me 2 years ago when we had the Flyway Federation guy on, and I've not... It's sat on my bookshelf. Oh, I feel like a dickhead now.
Is he from down here?
I can't... I'd have to go back and look. He wrote me like a nice letter and everything. It's like, hey, all the answers... There's a lot of good knowledge in here. You should read this book.
So you haven't read it?
I've not read the book. Jeff, you read it and give me the cliff notes.
It's totally the same guy.
Yeah, I guarantee you. Yeah, so I that makes me feel bad now that I see it. So where all are you traveling to this hunting season? Are you going anywhere cool?
I'm gonna go to Georgia next month. We might chase some wood ducks and stuff.
Yeah,
we're gonna try to put 3 deer on the ground, stock up the freezer with the buddy that's from North Carolina.
Very cool.
Go there, and then the next month go into Arkansas for at least 1 weekend, if not 2, which is whole new ground for me. I went last year the first time. I just love the changing thing. Then I don't have anything hard set until February. We're going to go to Mexico.
Oh, very nice.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Jeff, you go to fucking Mexico all the time. Don't be telling him good luck. He's a traveler anyway. That might scare somebody like me. It's not going to scare him. He's been to Mumbai.
Well, that's very true.
Oh.
Where are you going to Mexico?
That Hacienda Las Palmas.
I've heard a lot of good things about that.
Is that where Ramsey Russell goes?
No, you're not going to be on the Are you going to be on the West Coast in the Baja?
No, it's on the East Coast. It's on that Lake Ghetto.
Yeah.
Y'all had that girl on and talked to her about it, and then
which one?
Cammy Cakes.
Yeah. The fishing guide.
Fishing guide. You're using that word really. But she's got 1 million Instagram followers though.
Not our proudest.
Making money somehow, but
yeah.
There were a bunch of other people. I mean, Split Reed's been going down there. Who was it? The Mojo Gang goes down there. A friend of mine that works at Duck Camp, his good buddy was managing it, and so I've asked people that have actually been firsthand there, and I've been talking to the owner for 3 years. Just literally something's come up the last 3 years in a row that I just couldn't get down there, and finally it's like, nope, boys, I got 5 other guys from the club together. Like,
we're doing
when February hits and there's nothing else to do, we're gonna go chase quail and we're gonna go shoot some ducks and make duck season go.
It would be a little bit. It
longer.
Would be a fun trip. I would love. I was gonna go down there about 12 years ago, right before shit got really bad. Me and a buddy of mine's a pilot. We're gonna go down there. We had looked into it, and I would like to go down there. I like Mexico, but I like going to the airport and going straight to a resort and staying there and not getting out much. And I used to not be that way. I used to explore and go. Like I drove a damn Jeep all over the mountains outside of Puerto Vallarta, and now I look back and watch Narcos and shit, and I was driving right around the time they were fucking killing some bitches in the bars around there. Matter of fact, Christine's discotheque in Puerto Vallarta, they had a big shootout with El Chapo or El Guzman or whoever the hell it was at the time, and we had been there like the week before that had happened. So I was young and stupid myself once. I would love to do that. I'm jealous of you.
Well, I'll tell you about it when I finish up.
We would love to hear it. What was your dove season like? We had the worst dove season that we've ever had.
Man, that was a statewide problem. I've been hunting at this place. For like 22 years. And, I mean, it's just been like a lights out deal. Mm-hmm. It was like a cheek. And she called me. My dad had been down there like 2 weeks before. It's like, man, it is bad. Let me tell you, it is terrible. And so she called me, the owner, and was like, hey, John, it's so bad we're actually going to kind of close up. I mean, we don't have any birds. And we got down there, and it was not what it's historically been.
Right.
But it improved each day. It was thin. I mean, compared to what South Texas should be.
Yeah. I mean, we kept telling our guys, like, listen, we have heard that it was that big freeze in February that just knocked these birds out. And then when you look at that, so our state numbers are down, the birds that we would normally shoot opening weekend. And September was just so hot, it never drove down the northern birds. So I'm not happy that you had a shitty time, but I am happy that, at least it wasn't just us.
It was definitely not y'all. I had two guys from TPWF come in, and that his little job is to wander around the state, do these hunts. And they said, statewide, we've been getting shorted. There are no birds anywhere. I mean, we had some buddies hunt in Hondo that literally shot 5 dove on the entire property.
Wow.
It's like, holy cow.
That's tough. So we're going to wrap up here. Tell us about that painting, because Jeff, he's been jonesing to ask you about that painting.
So this guy, Tom John Webb, he lives in Austin. He's a Brit. We started seeing his work just, I don't know, all over the place, just kind of popping up. And we reached out to him to get him to paint this thing for us. And he paints what I find is killer. We had a big space that needed to be eaten up, and we needed some color to pop in here. Like, man. So funny enough, we've got a girl painting on the other side of the wall. And so he paints men and women, and we're like, all right, let's make it a guy. And there's this window, and the sun actually sets almost exactly where the shadow would be casted. We didn't plan that out, though.
Right.
And, yeah, man, it's just this guy in a valley, like it'd be West Texas or out in New Mexico or something, kind of looking off in the distance, and this golden window behind him or door.
And he did that for you.
He's got the New Mexico vibe going big time.
Yeah.
For sure.
I like that.
I mean, you look at his work, it's all stars and minimalist looking.
There's a place that have you been to Terlingua, Jeff?
No, I have not.
That's another place. Do you go there often? Your Instagram is littered with that kind of stuff.
No, man, we went that one time, and I was so infatuated with it and the stuff the photos that came out of it. I have been reusing that stuff because I love I don't like my own work a lot of time, but there's certain things you're like, dude, that view was just exceptional.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of going to sea.
Really?
You're so out there, away from everybody, that you're just left to your own vices to stare off into space or look out across the open scenery and let your mind wander.
Where did you stay at down there? Because they've got those big bubble tents, like to where you can see the night sky all the time. Did you do something like that, or did you stay somewhere else?
We did not stay there. There's a little joint called Willow House, and it looks like that scene out in Marfa. There's all concrete structures, the Donald Judd exhibit. And, man, you got this space. When you open up, there's like 10 of them, but they're triangulated. Mm-hmm. So when you come out on your little porch in the morning, you can't see anybody else. And you look out directly at the Chisos Mountains, like your own personal, like you got the mountain range yourself. It was awesome.
Right.
Open fire cooking style, what I like to do. And we just zoned out, and we went to the park every day, my wife and I, and we hiked every day and then came back. cocktails and cook food there.
Oh, that's badass.
These tent deals are getting to be big places. I saw a place.
There's like a company now. There's like 5 or 6 different places they have them.
There, me and Mom saw them, and
Me and Mom. It's your mom too now, John.
me and my wife were in. God dang it, outside of Mount Rushmore, and there's a place there that's got half a dozen teepees that you can stay in and stuff. And now it had snow on the ground all around them, and I thought, that don't really look like that much fun with the snow on the ground. But I think in the summertime it would be cool. I think my grandkids would love it.
You could set them up at the outfitter and let people watch the migration happen in the evening.
That would be badass.
That would be.
We've talked about it a lot with Wyman. You know, that region of Texas is such a fascinating place because you've got so every terrain possible you've got in Texas. So it's fascinating. People, you know, they need to travel more. I'm talking to myself here. Travel more, and it's a big place out there. Don't be afraid of it. Just go get it.
Well, we'd sure like to have you come.
That's it.
You'd sure be welcome to come see us one day. Really enjoyed this. You're a very interesting man. We'd like to have you on again one day and talk about so much other stuff to talk about. But we do appreciate you very much being on here with us as a guest.
Thanks so much. I'm honored to get to talk to y'all. Like I said, I've been listening to it for a while. You're always having fun and digging in all kinds of topics. So keep doing what y'all are doing.
Yes,
it's kicking ass.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it. And I'm actually doing tri-tip tonight. I saw you did that last night. I'm cheating.
Oh, there you go.
I'm doing it on the Traeger though. I'm not. Listen, I got to cheat.
Hey, that's all right.
Smoking in a hurry. John, we appreciate you coming on, bud. And if there's anything we can ever do for you, don't hesitate to ask. And have a good waterfowl season.
Yep. God bless you, and enjoy your trip to Georgia with your buddy, and hope you kill a bunch of deer.
Hey, all the best to y'all, and I'll come see you. We'll go shoot some ducks and geese.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
Anytime up here. Thank you, sir.
Have a great day.
All right. You're welcome.
Very interesting man.
Yes, he is. We went pretty long. I didn't mean to keep him that long.
He is.
He's who I want to be in life.
Well,
I just can't get out of my own way, Jeff.
yeah, you're kind of a boring person. He's not a boring person.
No, he's not at all. And I don't want to be a boring person.
He's an adventurer. He's the kind of guy that Lewis and Clark type person.
Yeah.
We need more of that in the world.
It ain't me. But Terralingua does. Jesse and I have talked about going down there, doing one of those tent deals. It seems like a pretty cool place.
Your kids would love it. Or were you thinking about leaving the kids with us? Okay, that's what's going on. Well, that'll be fine.
It's a romantic place, Jeff.
Y'all were romantic enough in St. Lucia.
Those have you just not had any desire to go there, or
we just never have. We've talked about it a half a dozen times about going. I told Mom the other day. I said, "Listen, when I say Mom, I'm talking about Michelle, so everybody will know. When hunting season's over this year, I always pick the trip that we go in February or March, and Mom always gets the fall picks. Well, next fall, she wants to go to upstate New York, even though we're going to do New York with y'all. I get to pick the February trip. I'm leaning towards either San Diego again, because I would love to go see the USS Midway and all that stuff there. I would like to go see that. That's one place I'm thinking about going.
Right.
I don't really want to go in Terralingua. We can just leave on a weekend and do that anytime. But the Keys are
6 hours from here.
Yeah, probably. Terralingua, I'd like to go there, but I'm not going to. I don't know. It's a place we've talked about, Alpine Terralingua. I want to go to the Keys real bad. I've never been to the Keys. That's a place I want to go, but I don't want to deal with all the fucking people.
I flew over it. It's beautiful. Brandon Surecki goes there every year.
To the Keys?
Yes. He says it is absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, we got Logan and Holly. God dang it, Logan and Hallie invited us last year, and I never heard the end of that shit from Michelle.
Oh, y'all got invited to go?
Last year, and we didn't go. But we're going to see Elton John with them. We may go to the Keys after that.
Yeah, it's nice y'all got invited.
I like New Orleans. Andy, y'all ain't that much fun.
Nice to see that y'all got invited.
Well, I'm not world famous, so they don't want all the
entourage
and all that shit that you
get invited to all this stuff. You're not even world famous.
People like me. We get invited to stuff all the time. We got invited on a really cool snowmobile trip the other day. But there was one thing that was a problem there.
Hunting season.
It was cold.
Oh.
I was like, going snowmobiling will be fun for about an hour maybe.
Right.
But I just can't see 3 days of doing that along a trail.
We did it when we snow skied this last time. It was fun for an hour. I wouldn't,
These people invited me and Mom to come up and go with them and stay at their cabin and then go and stay at another friend's cabin and another friend's cabin and 3-day tour of snowmobiling.
It's a little much.
I appreciate it very much. It was a very nice offer.
I mean, snowmobiles are basically just a 4-wheeler on snow.
Yeah.
And I don't, when we had all these places down here, that was fun as a kid, but you kind of like, good.
This seemed like a lot of fun. It was like a lot of drinking and a lot of stuff. I don't do a lot of drinking. I just didn't. It just.
Right.
I thought I wasn't gonna commit.
All right, let's get off of here. We've got to do some other shit. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and have a wonderful day.
God bless y'all. Peace out.
Go check out all of our wonderful sponsors before you leave here. Check out Steak Plains Meat, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Eyesight Drones, Bangtail Whiskey, Goose Creek Retrievers, Gundog Outdoors, Looking Glass Duck Club Podcast, Boss Shot Shell, Dive Bomb Industry, Shin Gear Waders, Pacific Calls, Dirty Duck Coffee, and Lucky Duck.